Most of you have seen Jurassic Park, and they spend a lot of time talking about how they made dino DNA, mixing frog DNA with DNA found in a mosquito that was fossilized in Amberdark. What exactly is DNA? First, it's important that you realize that all living things contain DNA. DNA is also known as the blueprint for life. We will start this unit figuring out the structure of DNA. Some questions. First, what is DNA? What is DNA made of? How was DNA discovered, and how does base pairing in DNA relate to its structure? First of all, DNA is genetic material. In 1928, Frederick Griffith used 2 strains of pneumococcus to demonstrate that bacteria can actually transfer genetic material. And what he did is, here you'll see he injected the S strain of that bacteria into a mouse. The mouse died. Then he injected a different strain, the R strain, into a mouse, and the mouse lived. So he took the S strain and he heat killed the S strain. He injected that heat killed strain into the mouse, and the mouse lived. Then he took the S strain, heat killed the S strain, and then took the R strain and injected both together into the mouse, and the mouse died. Conclusions from that experiment is that the R strain was transformed into the S strain. The heat destruction of the S strain cells actually released DNA, so the DNA was held within the cells. And when the 2 strains then combined, the S strain and the R strain, the DNA that was released from that S strain cell turned the R cell into the S cells. Then you have Hershey and Chase. Hershey and Chase wanted to know, is genetic material DNA or is protein the genetic material? So what they did is they used radioactive labeling and a virus. They determined that DNA is genetic material, not proteins. As far as the basic structure of DNA, DNA is made up of a bunch of connected nucleotides. As far as what a nucleotide is made up of a phosphate, a sugar, and a nitrogen base. The sugar is deoxyribose sugar. The nitrogen bases are either adenine, which is represented with an A, guanine, which is represented with a G, cytosine, represented with a C, and thymine, represented with a T. Now in RNA, you do not have the thymine, you have a uracil instead. Now Chargaff came up with the base pairing rule as far as which would pair with which. He determined that A pairs with T and C always pairs with G. And that rule is because a purine always will combine with a pyrimidine. A's and G's are the purines, and T's and C's are pyrimidines. Then you have Watson and Crick. They're credited for creating a model of DNA. That model of DNA is known as the double helix. So the sides are made up of a phosphate and a sugar, all stacked to make up the sides. Then you have those 2 sides that get joined by hydrogen bonds here. So you have a nitrogen base, a hydrogen bond, and a nitrogen base. That would be as if an A was pairing with a T. Those are called complement bases of each other. C is a complement of G. A is a complement of T. So if you take the 2 strands of DNA and you untwist them, you'll find that the top strand of DNA runs in what's called a 5' to 3' direction. The bottom strand runs in what's known as a 3' to 5' direction. And again, the complement bases are joined by hydrogen bonds. Okay, so we should know what DNA is. DNA actually stands for deoxyribose nucleic acid because you have a deoxyribose sugar. Nucleic acids are what RNA and DNA are. What is DNA made of? It's made of a bunch of nucleotides joined together. A nucleotide is a phosphate, a sugar, and a base. Those bases or complements of each other are joined by hydrogen bonds. How was DNA discovered? Well, the most credit goes to Watson and Crick for creating the model, Griffith determining that it was genetic material. How does base pairing relate to DNA structure? Well, the complements of each other have to be paired together by hydrogen bonds in order for them to connect. So next, we'll move on from structure of DNA to how DNA replicates or copies itself. So the base pairing actually makes him look like him and work like him, and him look like him and work like him, and them look like them and work like them.